So welcome everybody to this week's Quantum Alignment Show. This is part 2 of our 3-part series. I think originally I said it was 2 parts, and when I went through the transits today, I was like, nope, it's going to be 3 parts. So this is the second part of our 3-part series, Sneak Peek into 2020. And I know for some of you, at least on the Zoom, some of you are posting about change and shifts and surprises in election results. And I want you to know that we're already getting set up for some things that we're going to see next year that are going to be potentially, if we don't have the right mindset, discouraging or disheartening or surprising. I think we talked a lot last week about the potential for next year to be somewhat surprising. And today we're going to continue to go into what's especially going to happen in January, which really sets the tone for the year. We talked a little bit about that last week, but I want to go a little bit more deeper into it. And some of the things you need to have in place emotionally and creatively in order for you to get the most out of, or in order for you to be resilient when the unexpected or the shocking or the, in some cases, the despairing happens. So hold on tight. I'm going to give you some things to think about as we sort of explore these ideas. I want to just let you know that next Friday, when we do the last of our series, and by the way, we will have 2 weeks off for the holidays. So, sorry, there are dogs swirling around the fire now. We will have 2 weeks off at the end of the year. So we may revisit some of our oldies but goodies, and we'll probably have just a watch party on those days. But I really want to make sure that Cindy gets some time off, because what you guys don't know is she's getting ready to marry off a daughter, and she's just moved, and it's holiday time, and I want to make sure everybody gets a little bit of a break. So we will have 2 weeks off. But next week, Rebecca Hansen, who is one of my very favorite astrologers, is going to come next week and unpack some of the planetary energies for next year through the lens of not only human design, but also astrology. She does both, and she marries both beautifully. So you're going to get a little bit of a different point of view, because she's going to bring to the table some of the things that I can't, because I'm not really an astrologer. I'm a human design person and other things. So I'm excited to bring that point of view and that perspective to you as well. So Cindy just pointed in, if you're on Zoom, in the chat, the link to the slides. If you're not on Zoom, if you're on Facebook, they're posted below so that you can download the slides. You're going to want to do that because I gave you some things that you might want to print up and look at and explore as you move through and expand upon the energies of our upcoming year. So give me just a second to pull up the slides and we'll get started. In my mind, we're going to have, I keep thinking, oh, we're going to do a 30-minute presentation. I keep thinking that just so that you guys aren't hanging on here for so long. It never happens. So my goal today is to be succinct. We'll see. Are you going to make a joke, Cindy?
No, I was going to say you're always succinct, and everyone is always clamoring for more. So it's just great.
So good. All right. So we're going to talk about or continue our conversation about how the transits affect your chart and how you can use them to make 2020 a momentous year. And just a quick review for those of you who may have missed last week. Our word for next year is disruption. Dun, dun, dun. Not necessarily a warm and cozy fireside kind of a word, but a really appropriate word. I want to remind you, and I've been talking about this all year, that disruption is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay? We get disrupted when we're ready to grow. When we experience personal disruption in our lives, when you have those experiences that feel like, oh my gosh, the rug just got pulled out from under me, that disruption is your soul, your higher self, calling you forth to expand. We often experience disruption when we get too comfortable, or we're bored, or we've settled, or we've compromised, or we're living a B+ life when our higher self wants us to be A+. Maybe our higher self wants us to take some risks, to step into a bigger, broader, more expanded expression of the truth of who we are. And so this cycle of disruption that we're going through is really a call from the higher soul of humanity, the collective potential of humanity that's asking us to get really serious about stepping into the fulfillment of the full potential of the human story. Again, just reiterating a little bit of what we talked about last week, just as a review to set us up. We've got 2020, which promises to be marked by cycles of death and rebirth. It is a year of recalibrating. And I'm going to talk today about what are we recalibrating towards. It is a year when you can expect the unexpected. Sorry, pouring myself some tea here so I have a good strong voice for the whole hour. Or 30 minutes because we're doing it fast. It's a year when you're not going to have a whole lot of choice but to let go. And it's certainly a year where we're going to be redefining the collective meanings of power, of money, habits, and the meaning of faith. Our question for the year, or your question for the year, is what do you want? And how do you create in faith even when it seems that everything is unpredictable and uncertain? Okay, how do you create with faith? How do you create beyond what you think you can create? When I talk about disruption, part of what's happening next year is that we're breaking free from the limitations of what I'll say are logical patterns, and we'll flesh that out in just a minute. Meaning you are learning to create beyond what you perceive as your human capacity. You're getting ready to break free from the limitations of patterns, predictable things, and stretch into the place in your creative power that allows you to tap into disruptions and patterns, expansion, and miracle creation. And a miracle creation is simply anything that breaks the pattern, right? That doesn't fit with the pattern of logic. Your mantra for this year is my thoughts, beliefs, and actions lay the template for what's to come. My faith is my power, and I surrender to the infinite abundance that is life, and I trust. And what we know now, particularly from different quantum physicists all over the world, and physicians and people who are doing leading edge science, is that this isn't woo-woo, fluffy, just spiritual stuff, although I would say we really are in a place where we have the potential for some really beautiful collective spiritual awakening. This is going to be rooted in science. I have the distinct honor next week on Monday to interview Dr. Amit Goswami, talking about quantum spirituality, which is his new book. So we're going to be looking to scientists to help us understand a more grounded way to tap into the full potential of our spiritual and our creative power. We're going to start today's conversation with what's coming up next and how are we getting set up for what to expect in the beginning of next year. So our actual first kind of new year energy this year comes on December the 26th. December the 26th brings us an annular solar eclipse, and that solar eclipse is impacting and lighting up and emphasizing the gate 58. Now, this solar eclipse is kind of like a new moon on steroids. Okay, so it's an amplified sort of new beginning energy. It is energy that is showing up in the human design gate 58, which is the gate that in the new human design language that I've written is called the joy of mastery. And it's not simply the joy of life. It is, as it was in traditional human design, or as it's called in traditional human design, it's the joy of mastery. And let's talk about this for a second, because what we see with this energy is that mastery and the driver that causes you to push towards mastery. And the metaphor that I like to use for this is my daughter plays the violin, right? And so for her to become masterful at the violin, and she's played it for years and years now, she has to practice. And practice isn't always fun. And she has to take her piece that she's working on to her teacher. And sometimes her teacher is critical, especially if maybe she hasn't practiced quite enough and she's not quite got the mastery level there. But her joy in the experience of playing that instrument and getting better at that instrument, and now she's at a point where she's playing songs that she really loves. She loves fiddle music and bluegrass, so she's really into fiddle and bluegrass now, and it's joyful for her. So that joy keeps her going towards this experience of doing something again and again and again and again until she gets it right. And by the way, right doesn't mean there's not room for growth. Mastery is a continuum. There's no end point, right? She's constantly in this expression of mastery and this joy of her mastery. This solar eclipse really sets us up. It sets the tone for a skill set that we need to have in place in order for us to maximize what we're going to gain over the transmission and the disruption and the transformations that's available for us next year. The mantra that I really want you to embrace, even more than the one that I gave you today about faith, is this, and it's a simple, fast, easy one. Life is long. Life is long, and it is long enough for you to have the time to fall down, make a mistake, get up, do it again, fall down, make a mistake, get back up, do it again. It's long enough for you to make a mistake and calibrate it, for you to be in the midst of disruption and know that that disruption is just a teeny tiny blip on the time scale of the full potential of what's happening. Life is long enough for us to be in the moment of the chaos as things that no longer serve the full expression of the potential of humanity and the higher potential of what we're moving towards, that as those things fall apart, it's long enough for us to not panic, for us to be able to take a long-term perspective and go, okay, in this moment, it looks terrible, but it's a vital step that's allowing us ultimately, maybe not on the forefront, but behind the scenes in the green room of consciousness, not necessarily always out on the stage, for us to be quietly doing the work, creating the alignment, staying harmonized with the frequency of the joy of being masterful over the fulfillment of the human potential and our own full self-expression. That when we can take a long-term perspective, then what bumps and rolls along over the course of next year as we go through this roller coaster ride that promises to be 2020 isn't going to knock us flat on our back. And if it does, we're not going to stay there, because we're going to have enough joy in the creative process and be deeply connected enough to our joy that those little blips and shifts and changes and disruptions isn't going to take us off of our internal soul-based intention, that soul purpose that you incarnated with to fulfill the full potential of the human story you're living in. So it might mean you got to get rid of stuff that's not serving you. It might mean you've got to take some leaps of faith to trust that the universe really is supporting you in creating what you want, not what you think you should do, not what you think you need to do because maybe it's not possible for you to get what you want. All those little compromised places, those places where we've settled. This eclipse is inviting us to say, okay, I get it. You've had to play the game up until this point. But what if the rules of the game are changing? What if the game in the way in which you know it isn't going to be the same anymore and you don't have to play with the old rules? If you could live according to the way that you know in your heart as truth, what would you do? What would you align with? What are you willing to do for the sake of the joy of mastery? And remembering that that joy piece is the calibration point for next year. And so when things start to fall apart, you can reconnect back with the joy. That joy piece inside of you, nothing can take it away from you. And there isn't anything you need to buy or purchase or be sold. There isn't anything you need to do from an exterior perspective to up-level that joy within you, unless that's coming after the alignment, and then after the alignment, the material will reflect back to you what you need to do to continue to deepen that joy. But get that joy alignment piece first. That's, if you can imagine that right now we're entering into a corridor that's leading towards a doorway that's going to open up into the potential of this next year. And there's a lot of expansion available to us. Disruption leads to a cycle of being in a void. And in that void, we have the opportunity to redefine who we are. Once we get through that void, we come the other side. Out the other side, we're in a cycle of expansion. We're heading into a cycle of growth, immense potential for expansion. That's personal and collective. And so as you go through this doorway into this void, we're in the hallway right now. You get to have control over the kind of walk you're going to have down that hallway and how you're going to open up this door. So let's look at this for a minute. This is actually a chart that Rebecca posted last night. And as I said, Rebecca Hansen's going to be coming and talking with you guys next week. This is the eclipse, the energy of the eclipse, or the chart, the transit chart of the eclipse. These are the planets and how they will be at play during this upcoming eclipse on the 26th of December. I want you to notice how many times this joy energy shows up. It's in the sun, which is the energy that we're expressing. It's in the moon, which is what drives us, or rather the moon is in it. It's what drives us. It's in the south node is in the 58. It's a theme that we are building upon. And Jupiter, the planet of expansion and blessings, is also lighting up this 58 energy. So this theme, it's playing out in these hugely significant places in the chart. Now, in the new human design language, I call this gate, as I said, the joy of mastery. The challenge that this gate brings is the challenge to follow the drive to create the fulfillment of your potential. To learn to, I can't do this because this thing is in the way. Sorry. It's still in the way. You guys can't see this, but there's a weird little thing that's in the window that's in the way, and I can't see the slide. To learn to craft a talent and to make it masterful for joyful learning and repetition. To learn to embrace joy as a vital force of creative power without guilt or denial. Two big bugaboos to joy. The mastery of this energy is the ability to harness the joy of mastery and to refine your practice until you reach fulfillment of your potential and to live in the flow of joy. What we oftentimes see, and this is just something for you to explore, are there places in your life where you are denying your joy, where you are not advancing yourself in the practice of mastery? Do you let guilt or shame keep you from doing what you love? Do you disbelieve in joy? One of the things we talk about in the quantum alignment system, which is the integrated expression of human design and coaching and subtle body work that I teach professionally. As we talk about, at the core of all of the archetypes in the chart are 9 keys that need to be operating at the highest level in order for you to be resilient. If you want to learn more about the 9 resiliency keys, go to my website, quantumalignmentsystem.com. Go to the little page that says, what is the quantum alignment system? And on that page, there are all kinds of really sweet, short, 8-10 minute videos about resiliency and the resiliency keys and how they impact your life. If you are struggling with joy, it has the potential to impact you in 2 key areas that can affect your resiliency. If you're not creating from joy, or you don't believe joy is possible, it's going to impact your sense of self-worth, your sense of empowerment. Okay? So if you don't believe in joy, you're denying your joy, you don't think joy is possible, if you don't think you can be joyful being who you are in the world, it's going to impact your sense of power and empowerment. And that's a big theme that's up for discussion next year. You actually have the opportunity next year to redefine for yourself what is true empowerment and how can you be aligned with your authentic self and be powerful in the world. And one of the key elements of doing this is living in your joy and pursuing it relentlessly. The second thing that's going to happen is if you're not creating from a place of joy, the energy of joy is located on the root center, which is where we carry our adrenaline energy. You will burn yourself out eventually if you're not creating from your place of joy. If you're compromising or you're settling or you're just doing what you think you got to do and you're not tapping into that place of joy, it will impact your vitality. Things to contemplate with this energy is what brings you the greatest joy. How can you deepen your practice of joy? How can you create more joy in your life? And what keeps you from fulfilling your potential and your talent? What are you afraid of? Affirmations for the Gate 58 are, I am a masterful curator of my own talent. I use my joy to drive me to master the fun expression of all that I am. I practice my path to mastery. I know that from repetition and consistency comes a more masterful expression of my talent. I embrace learning and growing, and I commit to the full expression of my joy. That is the energy I want you to explore as we move towards this important calibration point at the end of this year. In January of 2020, and we're not going to get past January today because there's just a whole heck of a lot happening in January that's setting the tone for the year. I promise you next year, Rebecca will continue to unpack it in greater depth. But we got three big events in January, but two that are on this slide. I'll tell you about the third one in a minute. The first event happens on January the 10th. We have a lunar eclipse. And it's a lunar eclipse that puts the moon lighting up the gate 53, which is the gate of starting. Again, if you can imagine that we're sort of walking down this corridor heading towards the energies of 2020, going through this first lunar eclipse is like going through the first doorway as we go down this hallway. This lunar eclipse in the gate 53 is again an invitation, an initiating invitation for the year. It's inviting us before we have this huge cycle of potential disruption and expansion to really ask ourselves, solidly ask ourselves, what do you want? What do you want to create in your life? Now, I want you to notice something. We have a tendency to live our lives by the calendar year. And I'm not saying there isn't some benefit to it, right? It helps us make sense of the order of how time flows on the planet. But this is January 10th. And I know that it's, for some of us, me included, by the time we get to January 10th, we've already made our New Year's resolutions and probably started breaking them, right? So I want you to really pay attention to the fact that this new year, the most important thing for you to do is to A, stay connected to your joy, and B, really have a serious dialogue with yourself about what do you want. And to keep going on that conversation with yourself and that calibration point with yourself. And don't worry about setting New Year's goals or intentions, at least not on the new year on the calendar. That you have a longer period of preparing at the beginning of this important decade. You've got a longer cycle of preparation to get you ready for this year. And I think you'll be not using the planetary energies to their full potential if you by January 1 set all your goals and be like, that's it, I'm done. New year, bring it on. I'd like to see you take a little bit more time and to make sure that you're not just making this new year a cognitive adventure that you do with your beautiful mind, but that you really explore how can you make your entire lifestyle a frame that's going to contain the story of everything you're seeking to create. It's a really powerful and very vital time for you to look at how do you need to structure your life and your lifestyle, as well as your inner terrain, in order for you to get more aligned with goals that are true and real towards your potential, and not like some of the goals we have a tendency to set that we don't stick to, mostly because they're not really aligned with our joy. They're head goals, they're not heart goals. And I'd really like to see you drop into this heart place and into this connection place with source, God, quantum field, whatever you want to call it, to where you really explore, who am I? If I am the person creating my reality, who am I? And do I like who I think I am? Is it really a real version of myself? Or do I need to reframe this identity to make it more in sync with who I know myself to be in my heart? And then from that place, what do I really want to be creating? This leads us up to January 12th, where we get Earth, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto conjunct in the gate 61, the gate of wonder, which is a really interesting event that astrologers have been peeking at like this for a long time now. They're a little worried. So let's start first by unpacking this gate 53 for you. Again, you guys have all of these on the slides. So please print these slides up, and you can use these sort of as your cheat sheets as you go through the next couple of weeks and get ready with these energies. So the gate 53, which is our lunar eclipse on January the 10th, lights up the gate 53, the gate of starting. The challenge with the gate of starting is to respond in alignment with your energy blueprint to opportunities to get started. In other words, see what shows up once you get clarity and follow it according to your human design type. Don't start making up strategies. Live your type. It's the process of initiating or preparing or setting the stage, meaning you get ready. You're not going to push, but you're going to at least set the stage and get ready for the manifestation of a dream before it becomes a reality. It's the process of learning to trust in the timing of the universe and not take charge and try to implement your own ideas while working against divine timing, meaning get aligned and then wait and see what happens and trust the universe. To not burn out trying to complete things that don't need to be completed, and to find peace with being a starter, not always a finisher, and to know that the things that are yours to finish will show up correctly according to your energy. The mastery of this energy is the ability to sit with inspiration and be attuned to what the inspiration wants and needs. You are a steward to these ideas, and to launch the initiation sequence for an idea and to initiate it and then let the idea follow its right course and to trust in the flow. And when I say initiate it, I'm not saying push against divine timing. I'm saying set the stage. So for example, if you want to start a business, build the website, get your products ready, do all the things so that if somebody called you up tomorrow and said, hey, I really want to hire you, you would have a place where people could get to know you, they could hire you, they could pay you, they could call you up. Be ready for the opportunity to show up. That's a lot of what this 53 energy is about. It's about getting ready. The unbalanced expression is reacting to the pressure to get an idea started. It's to feel like a failure because everything you start against right timing fails, meaning you have to wait for the right timing, which means you want to influence the timing, set the stage, do the work, prepare, get aligned and get ready. Don't push, but be ready. To be afraid, the unbalanced expression can be a fear of starting anyway, or be afraid to starting, the fear to start anything, the fear of starting anything, because the trauma of your past failures keeps you from believing you can have success. And it's starting everything and never reaping the rewards of what you start. So the challenge here is to take a breath, get clarity, get aligned with joy, start preparing the way, and then seeing what else shows up, and then following through, and not before. Again, the resiliency keys here are vitality and empowerment. If we push too hard and we don't let the divine timing follow the right alignment, we run the risk of disempowering ourselves and burning ourselves out. Contemplations for this energy include: how do you feel about yourself when you have an idea and you can't get it initiated? How do you feel when someone takes your initial idea and builds on it? Do you value what you started? What identities and attachments do you have to being the one who starts and finishes something? What if it's not yours to finish? What if it's just yours to start? That doesn't mean you won't be supported. Do you judge yourself for not finishing something? How can you be more gentle with yourself? Do you trust in divine timing? How can you deepen your trust in divine timing? Your affirmation for this energy is: I am a servant to divine inspiration. My thoughts, inspirations, and ideas set the stage for creative expansion and the potential for evolution. I take action on the ideas that present themselves to me in an aligned way, and I honor all other ideas, knowing that my gift is in the spark of energy that gets things rolling when the timing is right. And while I wait for right timing, I guard my energy and charge my battery so that I'm sustainable when the time is right for right action. So again, life is long. It's a time to recalibrate with other possibilities. It is, hold on a second. Okay, let's talk, I'm sorry, I forgot a little slide here. Now let's talk about January 12th, when the Earth, the Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto conjunct in the gate 61, the gate of wonder. Sorry, there you have my introduction. So what does this energy mean for us? First of all, it means that we're going high and we're going deep at the same time. This is a time for us to really explore in great depth our shadow side and get really final in clearing up some of these shadow sides that keep us from connecting to the true fulfillment of our potential. It's a time when you need to clean up those limitations that keep you from having faith, those limitations that block you from being in a state of curiosity and wonder, those places where your mindset keeps you away from your joy. Remember that life is long. This is a powerful cycle of recalibration with other possibilities, meaning we are stretching up and connecting directly through the 61 energy. This is a place where we plug in directly to the quantum field, and we bring in through this connection of our consciousness mutation, change, transformation. And when we have so much energy in the planetary realm, in the planetary weather, focused on this huge potential for transformation. By the way, human design was born on this same energy, right? It's esoteric knowledge. It's quantum knowledge. It's the place where we can transcend our conditioning limitations of what's come before and take a quantum leap over old possibilities and create brand new possibilities. It's a time of radical reconstruction. And for us to manage this energy, we have to be recalibrating ourselves with joy and with our understanding that there are limitless possibilities available to us here. And we might not know what they are because we are stuck in old patterns, and that when we kick out of those old patterns, when we get out of fear and disbelief, out of fear and doubt and suspicion, and we stay in a state of wonder and curiosity, then the epiphanies and the insights and the breakthroughs show up. This promises to be a radical demarcation, and we might not know it until 5 years from now when we do a retrospective, that's going to very clearly delineate the beginning of this next decade. There is going to be a very distinct before and after, and when we look back on it later, we're going to know this was the time. It is the initiation into what I like to call the quantum era, and has the potential, as I said, for a deep spiritual awakening, but also a deep scientific awakening. And a scientific awakening that is grounded in the idea that you cannot divorce science and spirituality. It is a place where, from the tone that it sets, that we are going to be experiencing a connection with possibility, potential, and the infinite options available to us in the quantum field. Now, I have to talk about this in a way that sets us up I have to do a little bit of a retrospective just to kind of set us up to looking at where are we and where are we on the life is long timeline. We have been evolving as a species for hundreds of years, and our energy blueprint has been in flux, setting us up over this very long human life of ours to prepare for a big change and shift in our energy blueprint that's coming in 2027. In the 1780s, we went from being having a seven-centered energy blueprint to becoming a nine-centered energy blueprint. The birth of the current human design chart happened during this cycle, the heart chakra split, the solar plexus chakra split. This time marked the end of the scientific revolution. Okay, it was not the beginning of the scientific revolution, it was the end of the scientific revolution that actually kicked us into the beginning of a new era that I'll call the quantum era, or the quantum revolution. All right? What we saw is, as we moved forward in this new energy, this quantum era, we started to move from a consciousness that was fixed and rooted and manifested through the scientific revolution that brought us ideas like there are finite amounts of solutions, there are fixed laws with probable, possible, predictable results, there are formulas, reasoning, logic is the only way to know something, nature, natural law, rule the day, and the drive for certainty is vital. We moved out of this energy into a new perspective that was no longer rooted in fear and doubt, and marked the beginning of what I'll call the quantum revolution that's bringing us up into this point where we are now. The quantum revolution actually emerged a little bit earlier than 1920s, I'd say the late 1800s. The quantum revolution was marked by the advent of quantum physics in the scientific field. Quantum physics became recognized as an actual science during this time. And what quantum physics brought to us was an understanding that the building blocks of matter were not behaving the way matter itself is behaving. And that maybe because we are starting to look at the building blocks of matter and seeing that they act different than how we understand the material world, then maybe the understandings we have about the material world are still not finite and correct. What we saw during this era was the beginning of new thought. We saw new thought leaders like Ernest Holmes, Edgar Cayce, Madame Blavatsky, Rudolf Steiner, Maria Montessori. We had the new idea that your thoughts, your perspective created your reality, because quantum physicists saw, when they looked at the building blocks of matter, the quantum particles of matter, that the building blocks of matter behaved according to your perspective, and that your perspective on how subatomic particles behave would create the results of your experimentation, and that there wasn't such a thing as a fixed truth so much anymore, that there was a lot of uncertainty. We also learned that we could create non-locally, and that we are all connected to each other. We're in a network of potentials, and we are all collapsed as manifested potentials on this planet, and we're all interconnected. Which, if you can really get that piece, you'll stop having conversations about Republicans versus Democrats or whatever, because you start to see that's not the right dialogue to have. That's a binary way of thinking about the world. That's materialistic consciousness. In the quantum era, there isn't this or that, black or white, male, female. There's just a spectrum of potentials that are interconnected. And the way in which you show up for your reality is going to influence the web that you are a part of. 2027 marks the end of the quantum revolution, just like the 1780s, and when we had this change in the body graph, marked the end of the scientific revolution, ushering us into what we'll call the quantum era, which is going to be an era, and we're already in the beginning throes of it, that is going to be an era of massive creativity. I believe that we are on the cusp, when this quantum revolution is over, of entering into a creative revolution that will have the same quality of expansion that the quantum revolution and the scientific revolution preceding it have had on the human story. If we go back and we look at this in the context of this era being initiated, or at least the final initiations of it being solidified with this transit that's happening in January, on January 12th, with this Pluto and Saturn and Mars and Earth, all of this energy conjunct in this gate 61. Gate 61. We have to go back and look at where's the 61 on the chart. The gate 61 is located in the middle of the top of the head center. So it's the middle gate and the top of this yellow triangle. The head center is a center that I like to call the gateway to the divine. It is the place where your soul code resides in your chart, which is connected to your life code, which is contained within your ajna. So your soul purpose and your life purpose are both contained within your mind. The bridge between your soul purpose and your life purpose and the code, where the code resides in the chart, is the pineal gland, the third eye. This is the center that literally plugs us into the quantum field. It is the place where, through our own questioning, through our explorations, through our state of wonder, our imagination, our curiosity, we are able to tap into quantum potentials and bring them into our physical reality for the sake of exploration. This is where consciousness lives to a certain degree in the energy field. The head center is the center for ideas and inspirations. It is filled with questions, not answers. In fact, we are designed to question, not answer. Answers, by the way, according to human design, don't come up here. You can't figure things out with your mind. Human design teaches us, and this is true for all 5 types, including the manifestor, that the answers that you are seeking to your questions show up in your physical reality, outside of yourself. You're in a feedback loop with the physical world, and your physical world is the manifestation of the questions that you have for the universe. When you want to create something, you create it through a process of imagining and questioning, and it's through our questioning that we actually tweak quantum potentials and bring them into our physical field, where we get to explore our experience with them in our 3rd dimensional bodies. And then after that exploration, we get to decide, hey, I like this. How can I have more of it? Or, I don't know what I was thinking when I asked for this. I would really like to have something different. What else is possible for me here? And in our questioning, we then get into this beautiful feedback loop between the quantum field and our 3rd dimensional reality. And from that feedback loop, we get to create what we want in our world. The head center is the interface between human awareness and divine awareness. And it is literally, like I said, the place where we plug in. If you think of it as a 3-prong plug, 61, the 63, and the 64, all those 3 gates up there, it plugs into super consciousness. And it's from our questioning that we then seed the quantum field with possibilities that then ultimately manifest into our physical reality. Now, here's the thing that's just really interesting to pay attention to. The mind is designed to question. These 3 gates, if we are trying to find answers, if we're using our mind to find answers, these 3 gates give us confusion, the unknowable, doubt, and suspicion. So when we're trying to figure things out, if you really listen to what you say to yourself when you're trying to figure things out, and you understand that the shadow side of these 3 energies is confusion, trying to know something that you can't possibly know, doubt, and suspicion, it totally makes sense while trying to figure things out. It's really kind of a monkey game. But if you understand that the nature of these gates is to ask, and it's through asking that we receive answers in our physical reality as a response from the quantum field, we see that the 63 asks the question, what? What can I do? What do I need to have? What needs to happen for? The gate 61 asks the question, why? Which I'm going to tell you why this is important in just a second. And the gate 64 says, how? How can I do this? How can I create this? How can I make this idea a reality? Those questions are creative questions, and they are the most powerful thing you can do, the most powerful thing you can have in your creative toolbox, okay, is the power for you to ask good creative questions about your life. Meaning, if something shows up in your reality and you don't like it, instead of fighting it, resisting it, trying to figure out, oh my God, what do I need to do to get out of this? Ask a question. What do I need to change about my current consciousness so that I can create something different in my world? What needs to happen for me to have a very different experience from this in my reality? Asking questions about what shows up, and then using the power of your imagination does something really powerful. Number 1, triggers a photon storm in your brain, a storm of light. Number 2, that storm of light triggers neurotransmitter production. Neurotransmitter production and then in turn creates a specific emotional response. And by the way, that emotional response matches the beliefs and the meanings about what it is you're creating in your mind. Meaning, if you've got stinking thinking about an idea in your head and you start asking questions about it, it's going to start triggering neurotransmitters that match your stinking thinking. So certainly as we go through the beginning of this year and we're looking at recalibration points to gird our loins so we get through 2020, you better be exploring the shadow side of the archetypes that you have in your head or the meanings that you have about things in your life. So what do you think about money? What meanings do you have about money? What meanings do you have about relationships? What meanings do you have about your lovability? What meanings do you have about your value? What meanings do you have about your health and wellness? What meanings do you have about your right work? What meanings do you have about what you're willing to allow for yourself in your life? Because those meanings are going to be influencing which neurotransmitters you produce in response to your questions and your imaginings, and they're going to be influencing your emotional frequency, and your emotional frequency calibrates what you attract into your life. If you don't like what you're attracting, you got to tackle the meanings first so that you can start creating a different physical response to your thoughts that creates a different quality of emotional energy that's going to change your point of attraction. And if you need help or support with that, start first by getting a human design reading. Go to the quantumalignmentsystem.com page, find a practitioner, get a reading, or join us for any of our master alignment programs where we use the quantum alignment system to get into your head and your energy field and your body and start rooting out those old memories from old patterns and even from your ancestors that don't serve you anymore, so that you can get them out of the way and create the reality you really deserve to be creating. That's a big part of what we're working on next year. Why is a super important question, okay? Because the question why allows us, first of all, to see from a bigger point of view the role that some of the things that we might be stuck in, some of the stories we might be stuck in, some of the roles that those stories have played in the creation of our lives. It allows us to look at the tragedies and the traumas and start to see that even in the face of what felt like a tragedy and a trauma, there was an opportunity there for expansion and even a blessing in it. Now, I always tell my kids, and one of my greatest blessings was my divorce, when I got divorced from my first husband. Because if I hadn't gotten divorced, I don't think I ever would have had the opportunity to learn how to deepen my own sense of power and capacity in the world. I don't think I'd be doing this work here today if I hadn't had that. So as painful and as challenging and as heartbreaking as that experience was in the short run, in the long run, I see now what a blessing that was. And it was asking the question why, and asking the question why from a bigger point of view that allowed me to take a step back from my personal pain in the story and see the bigger purpose of the blessings of the story. So when we are asking the question why, we are getting really clear about all of the events in our life, those little microscopic puzzle pieces of what our reality has been about and how it has unfolded becomes massively clear under this energy. And it allows us now to take our power back from places where we have perhaps limited ourselves because we perceived ourselves as being victims of something. This allows us to also develop our inner focus and our determination and our courage. It allows us to really go deep into the shadow theme of money and power in particular, which is a big shadow theme that we are uncovering and putting light on all next year. And it becomes this incredibly potent period where we are so directly tapped into the potential of what's available to us through our direct connection with Source or the quantum field. So it's a powerful, powerful time for us to plant the seeds of what we want to develop far beyond this new year. What do we want to develop into this next decade? And those of us who can sustain a state of wonder and curiosity and trust in the divineness of this event, who can put to work, put into play, that's a better way of saying it, everything we've been mastering for the last 20 years about conscious creation and deliberate creation and law of attraction and consciousness and harnessing the power of consciousness and harnessing the power of our hearts. Everything we've been learning, we have to get to work putting it into action. There is no room anymore in these energies for us to have excuses like I had a bad day or Donald Trump is president or whatever it might be for you. We all have it. This isn't just you, and I'm not in any way pointing anybody out. I have my own places where I hold myself back from old stories. We all do. And these energies are inviting us to stop using these old stories, these old limitations that are rooted in lack of self-love and lack of self-empowerment, to keep us from fulfilling the full potential of our individual stories and adding the full potential of our individual story to the fulfillment of the potential of the story of humanity. So the gate 61, the gate of wonder, the challenge with this question is to not get lost in trying to answer or figure out why. Again, I'm just going to give you an example. When I first got divorced, the question that just kept going over and over and over in my head was why? That was an unanswerable question at that time. And when I could adopt the perspective that, okay, life is long and the why is going to reveal itself to me eventually, it did. It took a while, mostly because I was bitter. But I did eventually get to see the bigger blessing in this. The challenge is to, in spite of whatever's going on around you, to maintain a state of wonder. Do the things you need to do with this energy to continue to cultivate that state of wonder. Get up and watch the sunrise. I mean, I have to watch it in the city here where I live. It comes in between the buildings and the trees, but every morning it's different. It's like an amazing painting that evolves every morning. Go watch it. Do the things you need to do to get reconnected with wonder. Put this darn thing away and don't bring it to the dinner table and don't take it on a hike with you. Go be in a state of wonder and consciously cultivate it to the best of your ability. Get out of the pressure of trying to know and let yourself be present to where you are. Because the inspirations and the flashes and the breakthroughs and the insights you'll get from being present to your current reality without being distracted, without trying to figure things out and being in the pressure of trying to figure things out, will be the most creative state you can sustain. The mastery of this energy brings us the ability to see purpose in a bigger perspective that transcends the smaller details of an experience and an event. It's the ability to stay in a state of innocence and delusional confidence as a way of sustaining powerful creativity. The unbalanced expression, something to be aware of, is allowing the pressure to know why to create bitterness or victimhood that's often perpetuated in a rationalized pattern. The resiliency keys that we're going to be working on, or that have the potential to really give us challenges when we're working with this energy, if we're not living out the wonder, we may struggle with our decisiveness, and we may stop trusting ourselves and our connection to source. So some contemplations as we move into this energy is, what do you need to do to maintain your sense of wonder? How can you deepen your awe of the magnificence of the universe? And I mean, get serious about this. Go take a drink out of your tap, or go fill your bathtub up with bath water, or take a shower and start thinking about the journey of the water drops and what has had to happen for that water drop to be delivered to you clean and potable. Maybe it's got more chemicals in it than you want, but if you have a reverse osmosis filter, you can handle some of that, but that's a miracle too. Start recognizing that every single element, even the drops of water in your life, are rooted in miracles. What old thought patterns and beliefs do you need to release in order to align with your knowingness and to trust that your delusional confidence is a powerful creative state? What greater perspectives on the events in your life can you see? What's the greatest lessons you've learned from your pain? And how do you use these lessons to expand your self-expression? Our affirmation for this energy that's coming to us in spades in January is this: I have a direct connection to a cosmic perspective that gives me an expanded view of the meaning of the events in my life and the lives of others. If we're rooted in our joy, if we're rooted in initiating a new state of being a human in this world, if we are looking at the prize at the end of this journey, life is long. And what we are building towards a world of equitable, sustainable peace. Keep your eye on that prize and start exploring how everything in your life has been giving you exactly what you need to master to bring you to this point where you can become the creator of this new world. What are the greatest lessons you've learned from your pain? And how do you use these lessons to expand your self-expression? I think I already said all that. The affirmation here is this: I have a direct connection to a cosmic perspective that gives me an expanded view of the meanings of my life and the lives of others. That's what I stopped at, right, Cindy? I see the wonder and innocence of life and stay present in a constant state of awe. I am innocent and pure in my understanding of the world, and my innocence is the source of my creative alignment. Be delusionally confident that the dreams you are seeking have the full potential to manifest. And if you can hold on to that, you're golden next year. You have the ability to whistle through chaos, to sing through disruption, to be the person who calibrates the nexus of the unknown from the middle and allows you to create the vibration that lifts everyone else around you up, so that as things seemingly look like they are coming apart, you're actually weaving them together with a state of wonder and awe. So last thing that happens in January is the Human Design New Year starts in the 24th with the Sun in the gate 41, the gate of imagination. Again, a powerful energy for new beginnings. And the Earth in the gate 31, the gate of leadership. We will be taking leadership with our imaginations. If you want to learn more about how to work with the transits of next year, my 2020 Human Design Evolution Guide will be coming in early 2020. It starts with the Human Design New Year, so it's not going to be available in the calendar year. It'll be available for the Human Design New Year, using solar transits to design your year. So I'm just informing you it's coming, and I will very soon be giving you an opportunity to be able to pre-purchase. Yes, Cindy?
Well, it's not just the solar transits. Remember, you also have that, you have the lunar declinations.
It does. It also has all the eclipses and the lunar declinations in it as well. And I want to just let you know, I'm also getting ready next year. I just put this magazine to bed. I am creating a quarterly human design magazine in hard copy, and it'll also be available online. If you would like to advertise with our magazine and you want to be a part of sharing this information with the world, I just want to let you know we are taking ads from people. If you want to be part of getting your message out to human design people all over the world, go check out lifebyhumandesign.com. We have ads of all different sizes, and you can do one-time ad or you can do ads for all quarters. We will be also having a huge international human design conference in September of next year in Manitou Springs, Colorado, which is just south of Denver, close to Colorado Springs. And your magazine will be out. If you advertise in this magazine, your ad will be out and given to all the participants in this conference next year. So just a little sneak peek at what we're doing next year, some of the many big, huge, fun things we're building next year. I just want to remind you, too, that next Friday at 2 p.m., I will be joined, 1 p.m. Central, not 2 p.m., 1 p.m. Central. I will be joined by Rebecca Hansen, one of my favorite astrologers, and we're going to continue to go through the astrology of next year and explore some of the things you need to be aware of so that you can be prepared. Oh, Rebecca's here. Hey, Rebecca. So get ready. You're going to have a good time. You're going to have a great conversation. Rebecca always opens our eyes and shows us what's going on in a very beautiful, integrated way. She always blends human design and astrology together in a very powerful and integrated way. So that's it. It gave you some stuff to think about. Remember, to the slides, if you go to the chat, the slide and Zoom, the slides are to the right, and on Facebook, slides are posted below. You can get the writing exercises and the contemplations for those gates too. So, questions, Cindy? Ooh, I finished right on top of the hour.
Well, I'm going to go with Mary. There have been a couple questions that have come in. I want to start with Mary Kay's question. Will the 2020 guide include a daily look into the gate and line for that day? No.
Nope, it will not. You'll have plenty of things. You'll have so many things to think about over those 6 days, you won't need daily lines. So.
Okay, now there was a question, and somehow it all disappeared, but there was a question on the gate when we were back on the gate 58. What if they're open? I mean,
you all have all of the chart. You all have all the chart, and the transits bring us all the energy. So if you have it colored in on your chart and you have it defined, it means it's a consistent theme for you. So you're going to be working with it anyway. If you have it open, you get that energy either from the transits or from the people around you. And that openness means you have a lot of variability and potential in how you experience that energy, which ultimately gives you a little bit more choice over how you want to experience that energy. But you're going to experience it. We're all going to experience it, whether we have it open or defined. It's going to be in the collective soup of the energies we're playing with and growing in.
Now, all the links that we posted on Zoom will be in the Facebook description and also be on the blog tomorrow.
Yes.
That was one of the questions. Another of the question was, there is a page brought up, is that affirmation in the 19 guide, but you have reworked everything. So there's nothing in the 2020 guide.
All of the 2020 guide is all brand new language. So, and certainly it doesn't mean the language of the 19 guide isn't going to be relevant, but the 2020 guide has all brand new language. So it's a completely new compilation of information about the gates.
That's all the higher vibration language. Dr. Serena said, are you going to have personal ads to find soulmates in your magazine?
I don't think that's in there yet. I'll have to run it by my editor and see what they say, or the publisher of the magazine and see what they say. That's an interesting one. I hadn't thought about that. Okay.
Lots of people saying looking forward to the 2020 guide. To also, there was an earlier comment that they're looking forward to your new book that's coming up in 2020 sometime.
Yep. Soon, before May.
May.
It will be in your hands before June for sure. So,
but that's about. I mean, that's about all. That was all the questions. If I missed your question, I'm sorry, because some reason Facebook makes them disappear now, even off of my phone.
Oh. All right. Well, post your questions on Facebook, and I'll get in there and I'll answer them later. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Be gentle and sweet with yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Stay in joy. Be fully present. Don't take your cell phone to the table. Love the people you're with. And be well. Thank you, Cindy. Bye.